emotional roller coaster that is business. Now, it's taken me 10 years to get to a point where I am, for the most part, really, really solid in my emotional responses to whatever happens in my business. For context, I, in a single year, have made up to $750,000 in the businesses that I run. And that doesn't come from someone who is emotionally volatile or someone who continues to get sort of like reactive or responsive to the highs and the lows in business, because they happen. I've got 7 different things that I think have really helped me no matter what happens in your business. Hey coach, Xenia Wood here, and this is the Swift Coaches Academy podcast, created for service-based business owners who are ambitious enough to break free from the forever hustle and create scalable businesses that truly make an impact while also giving us freedom. With more than a decade of experience, we're not here to waste your time on theory. Instead, just sharing what works and what doesn't to help you get clear as fuck on your next move and show you exactly how to implement the systems and strategies that you need to scale with confidence. Hello. Today's I guess it's a business update, is that recently I spoke to probably about 60 business owners of a national franchise of allied health companies, and had the honor of speaking to them just through the fact that we had gotten great results with our exercise education program that I run in the background. And their students or their staff rather had like fed information up the food chain, and they'd obviously gotten great results, or their team leaders and things were seeing that, and they were like, where has this come from? And so effectively what happened is they got great results from the program that we did together, and then that was fed to the owners, and then that was fed to literally the head of this organization. And I ended up on a phone call with the head of clinical for this business, and they have rather between like 400 and 600 exercise physiologists and physiotherapists and other allied health around the country, which is pretty cool. So this is to say that the shit that you do now does not go unnoticed. And even if it feels like you are slogging away and you are doing all of the hard work and you are putting in extra hours to go out of your way and create wow experiences, it only takes one conversation. I remind myself of this so much. It only takes one conversation to literally change your life. And so I jumped on that call, and I had a call with like one of the owners of one of these 400 different one of the franchisees, and then I was led to speak to the person above them. And it just like, so the cool thing with this is that I've been doing paid speaking gigs for a little while now, but I don't actually prefer paid speaking gigs, and I'll tell you why. It's because if you get into this space, or if you're considering getting into this space, if you get paid, let's say you get paid $10,000, which would be quite good for someone starting out. I would say that'd be pretty bloody great. But the issue with that is that typically if you're paid to speak, you don't get to pitch anything to support and sell to the people who are there. And if you are good at selling and you have something to sell that the audience wants, then you only need to sell a couple of the things that you have in order to make more money than the payment of a speaking gig. And so that's what I did. So I didn't ask for payment, but I was able to pitch. And instead of pitching on the day, I literally was like, hey, here's this thing, did this whole like mosey, like this offer and this inclusion, this value add. And today it's not 10,000, it's not 5,000. Today it's free for you. And everyone was like, what the hell? So it was a really cool reaction. I got some really, really great feedback, and people who were like, came up to me after and was like, how can I work with you? Like, I need this. And I didn't even sell them anything. So I think the new hack to selling is to not sell, but to give so much value away that people come banging down your door being like, I want more. Yeah. And if you don't yet have something that is like a free version, or potentially in this example, I gave them limited time access to a program, then I think that especially in the online space, is something worth considering, like a reduced option that will get them a small result, but not the total result that they're after. So they can really test out what you have. And maybe that's like a small price. Or in the speaking example, when people have met you 30 minutes ago and you're trying to sell to them at the end, yes, you can sell to them, or you can go, here's this gift to you. And in that case, I got a ton of leads. I think it was about 37 people who provided me their email addresses and every single one of their staff members. So I probably got a couple hundred leads just from that. And to me, that is far more valuable than $10,000 because I only need a handful of people doing, well, it depends on the package, right? But I only need a few people to sign up to work with me in whatever capacity. And then I've made far more than just the speaking gig. So that's my little life/business update. And I was really nervous before doing it. This was the first time that I actually was like calm and composed on stage. I usually literally like shake for the first maybe 5 minutes. And this is coming from a gal who has speech and drama lessons under her belt, like hundreds of them, and was considering doing acting and has done so many like theater performances before, especially when I was in school. And I just think it's different speaking on stage, but through the work that I've done, was able to be composed from the moment that I stepped on stage, which, yeah, I'm super proud of myself for. So that's a little life update. And I guess that emotion around the nervousness kind of ties into today's topic because it just so happens that probably 3 or 4 people in the last week or so inside our Biz Academy program have asked me, they've said, "Xenia, how do you deal with, like, the emotional roller coaster that is business?" Right? Like, when business is up, you feel really great, and then business is bad, or you get less leads, or you don't make sales, or a couple in a row, and then you emotionally kind of, like, dip just like a roller coaster would in that moment. Now, it's taken me 10 years to get to a point where I feel like I can truly say that I am, for the most part, like 90% of the time, really, really solid in my emotional responses to whatever happens in my business. And so I don't think I'm 100% there yet, nor do I think I will ever be. But I do think that from the 10 years that I've been in business, I do have some, I guess, knowledge or wisdom, I guess you could call it, on what's helped me. Because this is something that is so common across so many business owners, and riding the emotional roller coaster can make you feel really sick. As in, like, you can just feel great one day and then like tank the next day. And it feels like you're in this head spin of like good, bad. And that's not a great place to be as the CEO or the founder or really anyone in general. But the emotional capacity and resilience and stretch that you have and create is directly, I believe, going to be aligned with the level of business that you can hold and tolerate, right? So for context, I, in a single year, have made up to $750,000 in the businesses that I run. And that doesn't come from someone who is emotionally volatile or someone who continues to get sort of like reactive or responsive to the highs and the lows in business, because they happen. Yeah. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things I want to talk to you about today that I think have really helped me to get off the emotional roller coaster and to feel really rock solid and steady in your emotional capacity, no matter what happens in your business. The first one is understanding that your net worth is not your self-worth. Yeah. So the amount of money that you bring in, the number of sales that you make, the number of clients that you have has nothing to do with your self-worth, because self-worth is something that you personally decide about yourself. So you can choose to believe that your self-worth is shit if you have no money or less clients or clients leave or you don't get the sale. But that's a choice, right? Your net worth is not associated, it's not one for one for your self-worth. And this is something that is hard to easy to say, harder to do. But when you can go and you get a sale or you don't get a sale, and you can be kind of like okay, well, be okay either way. I was gonna say like indifferent either way, but like if you can be okay either way, I got the sale, great. I didn't get the sale, great. What can I learn from this? Yeah. The the speed at which you can bounce back from that is going to be how resilient emotionally you are. And so the more we bring ourselves away from that and go, well, my self-worth has nothing to do with the numbers in my business. The numbers in my business are literally just numbers in my business. And I can influence them, but they are not me. And this brings me to the second point. You are not your business. Yeah. Who you are is more than the outcomes that you get. Like, who are you outside of your business? And I think for so long, like I would say at least the first 6 years in business, I felt like I was my business. Like it was pretty much only me for almost all of those 6 years. And so like Xenia Wood and Swift Movement Academy or Swift Coaches Academy were like one and the same thing. It was really hard to differentiate because I was doing everything. And so I felt like I was my business. And yet you are not your business. Your business is an extension of you. Your business is something that you do, but you also probably go to the gym. Maybe you play a sport. Maybe you're a sister or a mother or a partner or, an incredible golf player or whatever it is, right? Like you love baking or Taylor Swift or cats. So yeah, you can be so much more than your business. And I know you know this. So it's time to remember that and remind yourself in those moments that you aren't your business. Your business gets to be this thing that lives and exists independent of you. Yeah. And when you build it to scale, then you can actually have other people run and manage your business or, get results for clients that is not you. And so that is the moment where, well, that's not the moment, but you need to dissociate a little bit from your business so that you can be rock solid even if your business is not. Because if you are your business and you associate and identify yourself so closely with that, then you will be on the emotional roller coaster and it will feel really fucking hard and you will feel really high highs and really low lows. And if you can just create some separation from that, I'm not like, you're probably going to think about your business on the weekend and you're probably still going to do all these things. And I don't think that that's bad. But what I think is bad is when you tie your self-worth to the outcomes that your business gets. Because just because the person didn't sign up or someone ended up canceling or, you have less clients now than you did 6 months ago, that doesn't determine who you are as a person because you are probably really fucking kind and generous and loving and you have your quirks and people love you for things that are not your business. And I remember when, I might get a little bit emotional here. I remember when I was going through a moment with this with my business and I was talking to my partner about it and I was just like, oh, it's so shit and it sucks and la la la. And I think I had some like challenges around like, well, fuck, like part of the reason that he my belief was part of the reason that he loves me is because I'm this really rock solid business owner who like does all these things and has all these like it's not the money but like has done all these things and gets all these great results. And he was like, Xenia, I love you for who you are. And I was like, oh, and that like really hit. But I think it needs to hit for you too. And it does. It doesn't have to come from anyone else. It gets to come from you as well. And that was just one of the moments that hit for me. But I also chose every day to not associate and identify 100% with I am my business. And I chose to associate instead with my business gets to do these things and I also do other things as well with my life. And so I am a whole human, and whether I have a business or become an employee or don't work or whatever happens in life, I'm still rock solid. Because if you associate so much, then you end up If you don't have that, then you like almost lose your identity. And that's what happens a lot when people have like big shifts in their life or career changes or become a parent or whatever. And then they're like, fuck, who am I? So if you can create that now, then you are going to be so much more solid. The next one is that busyness is not a badge of honor. Now, this is something that I remember struggling with when I first had staff. And I think that this is a pretty common theme for people who have staff and then step back from their business, not necessarily completely, but even just partly. And it also happened to a student who is in our program at the moment. And very, very similar things happened when I stepped back and when he stepped back as well. And he was feeling really like guilty about, like not working as much and not doing the things. And I was feeling similar things when this happened to me years before that. And the same thing happened when we mentioned this and felt brave enough to mention it to our staff at the time, was like, hey, I'm feeling these things. They were like, Zenia, like, you work really fucking hard and have worked really hard for the last X number of years to get here. Like, you deserve this. And you're creating these opportunities for us. And I was like, shit, like, even my staff don't feel like, like I'm doing the wrong thing by stepping back. And they recognize that, there are still things that I do in the back end and I help support them and whatever else. And it's like, sometimes I think we make these assumptions in our head that we have to be working, we have to be busy, like the notion of like first one in the door, last one out the door at work. And, that's what a leader does, as opposed to like, what about a leader who fucking has self-care built into their week so that they can show up as the leader for their staff when they need them? What about the leader who goes and like works on themselves and does personal development, invests a fuckload of money in themselves so that they can show up better for their clients, right? And I think that oftentimes it's something that we've created in our head where we've tied our busyness to potentially our self-worth as well. And it's really not serving anyone. It's not serving our staff, it's not serving our clients, and it's not serving us. And if it's something that we want to do and eventually get to a point where we can, then now is the time to stop associating busyness as a badge of honor and start going, how can I work smarter? How can I get ChatGPT to do this? How can I decrease the process of this by 50%? How can I set up a system today that's going to work in my business for the next X number of years on autopilot, right? Because that is the hack. And that is what we should be celebrating rather than like, oh, I stayed back an extra 3 hours. It's like, but were you productive, right? Like, how can we, instead of being busy, be effective with our work and our time, and then also be effective as a leader and as a person for the other areas of life that we choose to invest in as well. The fourth one is about losses. Now, you've probably heard that losses are lessons, not failure, but I think that this really, I wanted to hit this point home with a story, because I mentioned before, if you win or if you get a sale or if something good goes well, amazing, celebrate it. If it doesn't go well, amazing. How can you learn from it? Yeah. And those things get to happen quicker and quicker, as opposed to sitting and dwelling in that. I used to dwell so much when a sale didn't go through, and it would ruin my mood for the entire day. And I'm going to reframe that actually, because I allowed it to ruin my mood for the rest of the day. Like, we choose our emotions. And I don't know if you know this, but emotions only last for 20 seconds. Crazy, right? So if you are thinking of something and you're feeling an emotion all the time, you are consistently continuing to think and feel that emotion to continue to cycle and feel that over and over again. So how can you reduce the time from when you feel the thing to when you go, okay, what am I going to do about it? And move on from it. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I was mentioning on a mindset coaching call recently that he was talking about, well, what if, like I get this client in particular is talking about, what if I get really nervous when I hear the ding on my phone go off because I just instantly think it's going to be something bad and a client's canceling, or the business sale that just happened, they're going to want their money back, or it's not going to go through, or whatever. And I can so relate to this because I've definitely felt that way before. And it's like this, almost like your heart sinks into your stomach and you're like, fuck. Even if you haven't even looked at the message, even if you don't know who it's from, but like instantly assuming the worst. Um, and I said to him, okay, well, what if the people wanted the $100,000 back for the business that you sold? What if that happened? How can that be good? He's like, well, it's not good. I was like, well, good and bad is just meaning that we've assigned to it. And he's like, what do you mean? How can you say that losing $100,000 is good? And I said, well, what if the lesson that you learned from that and the specific, I don't know, clause in the contract, or the reason why they terminated or wanted to get a refund, or whatever it was that went through, what if that taught you something that in 5 years' time made you $10 million on a different business deal? And you lost 100,000 today, but in 10 years' time, you gained 10 million from that lesson that you learned. Would you consider it good then? And he was like, well, yeah, I guess so. And I'm like, okay, so good and bad is relative. We can choose to assign meaning to it. You can assign bad to it if you want to, but how does that serve you? Could you instead assign a different meaning to it? And could you instead go, well, instead of that being a failure, what is the lesson here? And how can I learn from this? And sometimes you don't know instantly, and that's okay. But can you look at the data? Because our emotional responses and our losses are both just information that we get to choose to process and navigate. Like if you feel shitty about something, then why do you feel that way? If you feel guilty about working, why do you feel that way? And maybe there's a deeper reason, like maybe you don't feel good enough. And so if you work more hours, that's the way that you prove that you're good enough, or you're worthy, or you're only worthy if you work 60 hours a week. Maybe that's something that you've decided to believe and assign to yourself. And maybe you can choose a different belief, because beliefs are all made up. We actually inherit them from everyone else. There are no beliefs that are like fact. They are just the things that we believe to be true. Yeah. Because some people are like, oh, well, you always love your parents. But that's not true for everyone. Not everyone feels that way. Yeah. And so even things that we feel rock solid to our core, we believe, are not actually true. We've assigned that meaning to them. And I think it's important that we recognize, is that meaning still serving us? Or are we going to choose to assign a new meaning to it and create a new belief that does serve us? Because if you want to work less hours, but you have an underlying belief of like, I am only worthy if I work 60 hours a week, then you will always feel guilty for working less than 60 hours a week. You will always feel bad until you hit the root cause of that. And that gets to be the work that you do. The next point about supporting you to get off the emotional roller coaster is understanding that business lows happen. I feel like you do, for the most part, only see the highlight reel on social media, and you see people making all the money and doing all the things, but do you see the clients who are canceling? And do you see the legal threats that people are getting? And do you see like all of the people who are unhappy with the service and leaving bad reviews? Probably not. Yeah. Do you see the money that's in their bank account, if it's up or if it's down? Typically, you don't. And so because business lows happen, it's a part of life. Lows happen in life, highs happen in life. It's what you do about that that matters. And it's just feedback. So again, removing yourself from I am my business and instead going, okay, well, that one high or low or good or bad thing that you've decided to make it mean has happened, and it doesn't need to determine your future. But what I often see people do is that they will do something. They will post something on social media. They will reach out to people to see if they can work with them, or they will approach someone on the gym floor or whatever it is. And then they get rejected and they go, oh, doesn't work. or they do it 20 times or 50 times. It doesn't work. But these are all just lessons. Yeah. Like zoom out a little bit and go like, is what you're doing right now on a grand scale working? And if it's not, that's cool. You've acknowledged it. You're now aware of it and you have the capacity to change. But what isn't serving you is to go, oh, it didn't work, and then go, nothing else will work, and go, I'm a failure because this failed, and I may as well give up on business. Yeah. And it's okay to not want to run a business, but what's not okay is to tell yourself that you're a failure because what you've already tried didn't work in that specific scenario for you. Yeah. It's about getting more information and resources and not just necessarily doing more of the same thing, but also tweaking it to do better. I know a lot of people who are like, oh, well, social media, like it didn't work. I'm like, well, have you done more of it? Have you analyzed the data? And then have you tried to improve it? And if you can try and improve it teeny little bits over and over, then it's just like going to the gym and being like, okay, well, squatting this way didn't really work, or it felt painful for my hip, or whatever it was. So then you would test something else. Like we need to be the scientists in our own life, I believe. And so instead of going, oh, that worked, that failed, science didn't work for me, right? It's like, okay, well, that didn't work. What was my hypothesis? What did I hope was going to happen? What was my expectations? What did happen? Why was it different? And how can I retest the experiment and go again with new data, new methods, and see what outcome happens then? Because when you recognize that business and life and everything that we do are just little tests and little experiments that we get to try to see and move closer to the outcome that we want, then it gets to be like a game that you play rather than like, oh, I played Monopoly once and I lost, I'm never going to play again. It's like, okay, but like you just learnt the rules. Like there are probably other things that you can do and other methods and other strategies that you haven't tried that could get you a better outcome. So just remember that business lows happen. It's normal and it's feedback for you. If you're not looking at the feedback, that's when it really sucks because we sit in the feeling and we don't zoom out and get into the data and go, what happened? What was the outcome? Not emotionally, but from a logistical level, what happened? And perhaps why do I think that happened? Or what does the data tell me happened? And how could I try something different to get a different result? Second last one is, what can you actually do in these moments? Because it's all well and good to be like, oh, these things, like your net worth is not your self-worth and busyness is not a badge of honor and things like that. But in the moment, feels really fucking hard. So I would really encourage you to firstly just become aware of these moments. Awareness is always the first step in any of these things that we do, because if you're not aware of it and you're just flying off the handle and you don't even recognize and you're just like blacked out in rage or whatever it is, then it's going to be really hard for you to change. Okay. So first thing is to just take a beat. If you notice yourself feeling frustrated or, you get a legal letter and you do what I did the first time and you literally are standing there and like, not convulsing, but like really quite violently shaking and like heart palpitations through the roof. And there's, shit going on that you're like, holy shit, I don't feel like I am in control at all. Like my life feels like it's in like fucking turmoil right now. Then how can you just stop for a second and just for 10 seconds, nothing will happen, just to stop and just allow yourself to try and breathe and relax and settle into that. And then determine what the things are that help support you the most in those chaotic moments. Obviously, do that in a calm moment so that you have strategies. Yeah. It might be going for a walk. It might be patting your dog. It might be going to the gym and like rage lifting heavy shit. Like whatever it is for you, but find the things that you can use as an outlet so that you can come back to the calmness quicker and feel better about the scenario. I would also suggest probably finding someone to talk to about this stuff instead of bottling it in. I know a lot of people will potentially not want to tell anyone because they feel afraid or worried, and maybe even they feel nervous about saying something like the business going backwards to their partner if they're the one who's the breadwinner or things like that. So find someone who you trust, and this could be a mentor or a coach, or it could also be like a friend or a partner that can be your confidant in those moments so that you can not like spiral into the conversation, but someone else who is outside of the situation can, and hopefully you choose someone good who can provide perspective and help support you emotionally through that as well. I think that environment is really, really helpful. And then the last thing to remember is this shit takes time, like literally 10 years for me to get to a point where if I receive another legal letter, I'm like, okay, we'll deal with it. Yeah. And like this shit happens when you get into business and you're, working hard and you're scaling and you're making more money and things like that. And I think that, it's going to happen. Like these things are not, we're not immune to them. And the more people and the more money, and the more problems typically come up as well. And so I just want to be real with that in that, like if you are wanting to do this, these things can happen. And you're going to need to build up some more emotional resilience if you're going to want to scale and grow a really big business, or even just bigger than what you have now, because you can only hold the business at the level that you are emotionally capable of. Otherwise, you will probably do things like self-sabotage. So if you have been stuck at like a specific income bracket or level for a while now, I wonder what emotionally you're not yet able to hold space for and have more bandwidth for emotionally to be able to support that next level, and what needs to happen for you with that. So just be kind to yourself in these moments, because the emotional roller coaster can feel fucking hectic, but you get to, instead of feeling the pit of your stomach and feeling like you're gonna be sick on the roller coaster, you can instead just throw your hands in the air and be like, woo, on the way down, and be like, this is another lesson and we get to go again. And the work happens in the thick of the moments. There's so much that you can do outside of it for sure, but the real test is in the moments when you do get that client who, their payment doesn't go through and you have to have the conversation, or, something happens and you have to tell your students that, or your clients that, like you can't be there for that session for that week because of, I don't know, whatever personal thing or whatever it is for you, right? Like it could be a legal letter, but it will happen in the moments, and it's the reflection, the awareness, and then going again and going back into the arena, even though it sucked, and just trying the next time to be like 1% better than last time, and helping your emotions settle like a little bit faster, and helping to find those strategies that work a little bit better for you. So I hope that this has helped you if you're feeling like you are riding the emotional roller coaster right now, and that you have perhaps tied your self-worth to your net worth, or your busyness feels like this badge of honor. And yeah, I just hope it helps. Move swiftly. Hey, coach, before you go, the reason I do this every single week and the reason we've been able to surpass 100 episodes is because of you. So thank you. We're on a mission towards never seeing another coach leave the industry because they didn't have the skills or the confidence to scale. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that before you forget. I read every single one of the comments and share as many as I can. So if you found this episode valuable, sharing it with a friend who might be able to benefit from hearing it would honestly mean so much to me. Until next time, and in whatever you do, move swiftly.